Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy, and Kara, unfortunately, is not with us this week. She has been doing a lot of traveling, and she is getting ready to head back out again. So it's just me, but that's okay, because I have a very interesting, hot off the presses story for us today about vampires in Dayton, Ohio. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we are going to delve into this story. It also has to do with a missing person who got mixed up with, apparently there's a vampire cult in Dayton, Ohio. So let's go ahead and get started with our story today. So Dayton, Ohio is said to be home to one of the largest vampire covens outside of New Orleans. A man went missing from the goth nightclub that they use as their apparent headquarters for the vampires. George Phillip Gall was last seen in October of 1994 getting off of a bus at 4th Street and Main Street near a bunch of goth clubs in downtown Dayton, Ohio. Now, in 2008, a police officer came forward to the Dayton Daily News, saying that he believed he knows what happens to Gall that night and that he had been involved in a ritual. He said that there was a bar downtown Dayton called the Asylum that was the last place that people had seen Gall at the time, and he said that particular bar is a meeting place for a coven of vampires that apparently lives in Dayton, Ohio. Now, he said that the story was that Gall was involved in an occult ritual that took place inside of this bar up on the upper floors, and that he was beheaded and that his head had been sold as a relic to an occultist who, I guess, apparently wanted the head of a dead person. So we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into the story and, kind of talk about what happened and the disappearance. Now, this is still considered a unsolved case, and it's still open. If you have any information pertaining to this particular case, please get in contact with the Dayton police. They will definitely want to hear from you if you were around back in 1994 and went to one of these clubs and heard stories about what might have happened to Phillip Gall. So the details of Gall's disappearance. So on October 13th of 1994, he left his home that he had shared with his wife and infant daughter at 11 p.m. at night and took a bus to go downtown. Now, he was seen walking towards a nightclub called the Asylum, which was on Patterson Road. And after he was seen there, he was never seen again, and nobody knows what happened to him. He's still considered missing today, even though they have declared him officially dead, the state of Ohio has. But his case is still open. So Gall had apparently just signed a lease for a new home the week before of his disappearance. So they kind of ruled out that, he was tried to take his own life or he disappeared, for nefarious reasons. They believe that, something bad happened to him, that he just, take off on his own or whatever. He was not having any personal problems at the time of his disappearance. They had checked into all that to make sure that, he wasn't having a fight with his wife or whatever, or he didn't have any problems with the people he worked with and stuff. And, in fact, people said it was very uncharacteristic of him to just up and leave and not tell his wife at the time where he was going. He was employed as a roofer, and when he disappeared, he left behind over $1,000 of roofing tools, which is a lot of, tools to leave behind if you are not planning on coming back. If he was planning on leaving or something, he probably would have sold the tools to use the money as seed money for whatever, wherever he was going to disappear to. So Gall's loved ones decided that he was dead, and 9 months after his disappearance, they held a service for him. His disappearance still remains unsolved today, as I said. So if you have any information, you really should contact the Dayton police force, because they're reopening this back up. It's an old cold case that they're bringing back. So there was a retired officer by the name of David Williams who, back when Phillip disappeared, he was one of the lead detectives that was put on the case to try and find out what happened to him. And he basically infiltrated this vampire cult in these nightclubs. And he actually started working there for them. And he would go in each night and talk to the patrons at these clubs and that, and would talk to the bartenders and the people that work there and stuff. And while he was undercover, he befriended a bartender that told him what he thought had happened to, or what he knew had happened to Phillip. He told him that he believed that he was killed and beheaded in an occult ritual. So David Williams went undercover in the bar in 1994, like I said, and he noticed that there was a very large vampire-like crowd, goth crowd, that hung out in these particular bars, especially the asylum where he went in undercover, because that's where they believed that Phillip had disappeared from. So the bartender told him that Gall was used in an occult ritual before being headed. He said that his severed head was later sold to an occultist, and that the bartender saw the head transferred in the club for sale. So Williams said that the bartender had given him enough intricate details about the story and about what had happened to Gall to make his story believable to him. And then the bartender told Williams that Gall's body was allegedly placed in a storm sewer tunnel that was accessible from the nightclub. Now, these storm sewer tunnels that run underneath the city of Dayton were used by a lot of the homeless people back then, and still today a lot of them will use them, even though they're not supposed to be down there, but they do go down there. They also say that a lot of drug deals and a lot of other stuff goes on down there. A lot of students from the University of Dayton will take the tunnels to go and use them for partying and stuff. So the tunnels get used more regularly than what you would think. And at first, the police didn't realize this, but once Williams was undercover and realized it, the police would go down there quite often and try to break up, whatever was going on, whether it be, homeless people down there just, trying to get away and stay out of the elements or whatever. But what they did say, and what the sewer district said, because they actually had the sewer district take them on a tour of down there to show them, what it was like down there. They mentioned that whenever it rains, because they are sewer drains, when it rains, those sewers flood very quickly. And you could easily be killed or swept up and then dumped into the river that it runs into eventually. So that's why they didn't like people going down there, because of how dangerous they could be. There was also, rats and all that kind of fun stuff down there. So anyway, the bartender told him that they believed that his body had been drugged down into the tunnels that run underneath the bar, and that's where they left it. And Williams said that him and his officers went down there after they had found out about, where they thought that Gall's body had been put. And they took golf carts down there, because some of the areas down there are so large that you could fit trucks and stuff through, like big, huge trucks. And so they took the golf carts down there and they drove them all around. And they said that there were several tunnels that they thought could have been used, for doing these rituals or whatever, or, leaving a body, but they never found anything that indicated that a body had been placed down there, or it looked like, somebody had been murdered or whatever. But they did find some occult symbols down there, which kind of makes the story kind of make sense. Interestingly enough, though, after he went looking for that, nothing much more became of the search for Gall's body. They had no more leads, and after they had run through all the ones they had, the trail went cold. And that was in 2008 when Williams came forward to let people know, hey, this is what I think happened to Gall. And they ran a story in a Dayton newspaper. Now, interestingly enough, there was a study done by the Atlantic Vampire Alliance in 2015 that said that at the time, I mean, I'm sure there's more now, that there was 5,000 people in the U.S. that had identified as real vampires, and some of them drink blood from willing donors, which I thought was interesting. And, you know, a little bit of information for our story here today. So I guess it's interesting. It makes you wonder if there really are a vampire cult in Dayton. And, you know, what's going on in Dayton that you have this guy who's been missing since 1994 and no leads have come forward since then. Just the story about vampires. Now, I was looking on Reddit the other day, and there was a thread on there about this because Netflix is supposedly there's supposed to be a Netflix documentary about this particular story and about vampires in Dayton, Ohio. And a member of the family was on Reddit and had said that the whole part about the vampire cult thing was they believe it's made up, that is not true. Now they do think that their relative could have died from an occult situation. They just don't know. I mean, like I said, his body was never found, so nobody knows. It's all hearsay at this point about what happened and transpired. It's all just a bunch of stories. So I found this story and I thought it was interesting and I thought it would be something to share and to see what you guys think about this. Do you guys think that there are vampires out there? Like real vampires? Sure, not. I mean, I know they don't run, they don't sparkle and all that like the vampires we've heard of from Twilight and stuff like that. But, are there vampire cults out there? Are there people that like to drink blood from willing donors? I don't know. I mean, it could be. I mean, to each his own. So anyway, that is all I have for us today. Like I said, check it out. If you have any information, if you're from the Dayton, Ohio area and you were around back in 1994 and you heard something from someone, even if you don't think it's anything of great importance, please make sure to reach out to the Dayton police and share whatever information it is that you have. You never know what you heard that could actually help break open a case. I mean, sometimes it's just the smallest details of something that helps get the case solved. So again, that's all I have for you guys this week. I hope everybody has a great week, and we will be back in 2 weeks with another exciting episode of the Two Scaredy Cats podcast. Please make sure to leave us a review, because without your reviews, we won't get discovered. And you can find us on Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. We also just started listing all our shows on YouTube, so be sure to check us out there. And all you scaredy cats and kittens, remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.